Chapter 19. O book, what's my fate? What is the secret of life? See Appendix F. Why was everybody looking at me? I couldn't help it if I was the only ex-god in the room. Raina leaned over the scroll, tracing her finger across the parchment. Frank copied these lines from Tyson's back. As you can probably guess, they read more like an instruction manual than a prophecy. I was about to crawl out of my skin. I wanted to rip this scroll away from Raina and read the bad news myself. Was my name mentioned? Sacrificing me couldn't possibly please the gods, could it? If we Olympians started sacrificing one another, that would set a terrible precedent. Meg eyed the jar of jelly beans while the greyhounds eyed her. Which god dies? Well, that particular line, Raina squinted, then pushed the parchment over to Frank. What is that word? Frank looked sheepish. Shattered. Sorry, I was writing fast. No, it's fine. Your handwriting is better than mine. Can you please just tell me what it says? I begged. Right, sorry, Raina said. Well, it's not exactly poetry, like the sonnet you got in Indianapolis. Raina! Okay. It says, all to be done on the day of greatest need. Gather the ingredients for a Type 6 burnt offering. See Appendix B. We're doomed, I wailed. We'll never be able to collect those, whatever they are. Well, that part's easy, Frank assured me. Ella has a list of ingredients. She says it's all ordinary stuff. He gestured for Raina to continue. Add the last breath of the god who speaks not, once his soul is cut free, Raina read aloud. Together with shattered glass, then the single deity summoning prayer, see Appendix C, must be uttered through the rainbow. She took a breath. We don't have the actual text of that prayer yet, but Ella is confident she can transcribe it before the battle starts, now that she knows what to look for in Appendix C. Frank glanced at me for a reaction. Does the rest of it make any sense to you? I was so relieved I almost slumped off my three-legged stool. You got me all worked up. I thought... Well, I've been called a lot of things, but never the god who speaks not. Sounds like we must find the soundless god, whom we've discussed before. And, kill him? Raina asked. How would killing a god please the gods? I didn't have an answer to that. Then again, many prophecies seemed illogical until they played out. Only in retrospect did they appear obvious. Perhaps if I knew which god we're talking about. I pounded my fist on my knee. I feel like I should know, but it's buried deep. An obscure memory. I don't suppose you've checked your libraries or run a Google search or something. Of course we looked, Frank said. There's no listing for a Roman or Greek god of silence. Roman or Greek? I felt sure I was missing something, like part of my brain, for instance. Last breath. His soul is cut free. It definitely sounded like instructions for a sacrifice. I have to think on it, I decided. As for the rest of the instructions, shattered glass seems like an odd request, but I suppose we can find some easily enough. We could break the jelly bean jar, Meg suggested. Raina and Frank politely ignored her. And the single deity summoning thing? Frank asked. I guess that means we won't be getting a host of gods charging down their chariots. Probably not, I agreed. But my pulse quickened. The possibility of being able to speak to even one fellow Olympian after all this time. To summon actual grade AA quality gumbo cage-free locally sourced divine help. I found the idea both exhilarating and terrifying. Would I get to choose which god I called? Or was it predetermined by the prayer? Nevertheless, even one god can make all the difference. Meg shrugged. Depends on the god. That hurt, I said. What about the last line? Raina asked. The prayer must be uttered through the rainbow. An iris message, I said. Happy I could answer one question at least. It's a Greek thing, a way of beseeching Iris, the goddess of the rainbow, to carry a message. In this case, a prayer to Mount Olympus. The formula is quite simple. But, Frank frowned. Percy told me about iris messages. They don't work anymore, do they? Not since all our communications went silent. Communications, I thought. Silent. The soundless god. I felt as if I'd fallen into the deep end of a very cold pool. Oh, I'm so stupid. Meg giggled, but she resisted the many sarcastic comments that had no doubt filled her mind. I, in turn, resisted the urge to push her off her stool. This soundless god, whoever he is, what if he's the reason our communications don't work? What if the Triumvirate has somehow been harnessing his power to prevent us all from talking to one another, and to keep us from beseeching the gods for help? Raina crossed her arms, blocking out the word fuerte on her t-shirt. You're saying what? This soundless god is in cahoots with the Triumvirate? We have to kill him to open our means of communication? Then we could send an iris message, do the ritual, and get divine help? I'm still stuck on the whole killing a god thing. I considered the Erythraean Sibyl, whom we'd rescued from her prison in the burning maze. Perhaps this god isn't a willing participant. He might have been trapped or, I don't know, coerced somehow? So we free him by killing him? Frank asked. Gotta agree with Reyna, that sounds kind of harsh. One way to find out, Meg said. We go to this sutro place. Can I feed your dogs? Without waiting for permission, she grabbed the jelly bean jar and popped it open. Wirm and Argentum, having heard the magic words feed and dogs, did not growl or tear Meg apart. They got up and moved to her side, then sat watching her, their jeweled eyes sending the message, please, 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 like they were Sabrina Carpenter. Meg doled out a jelly bean for each dog, then ate 2 herself. 2 for the dogs, then 2 for herself. Meg had achieved a major diplomatic breakthrough. Meg's right. Sutro is the place Tarkin's minion mentioned, I recalled. Presumably we'll find the Soundless God there. Mount Sutro? Reyna asked. Or Sutro Tower? Did he say which? Frank raised an eyebrow. Isn't it the same place? I always just called that area Sutro Hill. Well, actually the biggest hill is Mount Sutro, said Reyna. The giant antenna is on a different hill right next to it. That's Sutro Tower. I only know this because Wirm and Argentum like to go hiking over there. The greyhounds turned their heads at the word hiking, then went back to studying Meg's hand in the jelly bean jar. I tried to imagine Reyna hiking with her dogs just for fun. I wondered if Lavinia knew that was her pastime. Maybe Lavinia was such a dedicated hiker because she was trying to outdo the Praetor, the same way she had her thinking spot high above Reyna's. Then I decided that trying to psychoanalyze my pink-haired, tap-dancing, manuballista-wielding friend was probably a losing proposition. Is this Sutro place close? Meg was slowly depleting all the green jelly beans, which was giving her a different sort of green thumb than usual. It's across the bay in San Francisco, Reyna said. The tower's massive. You can see it from all over the Bay Area. Weird place to keep someone, Frank said. But I guess no weirder than under a carousel. I tried to remember if I'd ever been to Sutro Tower, or any of the other various Sutro-labeled places in that vicinity. Nothing came to mind, but the instructions from the Sibylline books had left me deeply unsettled. The last breath of a god was not an ingredient most ancient Roman temples kept in their pantries, and cutting a god's soul free was really not something Romans were supposed to try without adult supervision. If the Soundless God was part of the Triumvirate's scheme for control, why would Tarkin have access to him? What had Tarkin meant by doubling the flock to guard the god's location? And what he'd said about the Sibyl. I hope the Sibyl lasts long enough to see you humbled. That may be what finally breaks her. Had he just been messing with my mind? If the Sibyl of Kume was truly still alive, a captive of Tarkin, then I was obligated to help her. Help her? The cynical part of my mind responded. Like you helped her before? Wherever the Soundless God is, I said, he'll be heavily protected, especially now. Tarkin must know we'll try to locate the hiding place. And we have to do so on April 8th, said Reyna. The day of greatest need. Frank grunted. Good thing we don't have anything else scheduled for that day. Like getting invaded on 2 fronts, for instance. My gods, Meg, Reyna said. You're going to make yourself sick. I'll never get all the sugar out of Wirm and Argentum's gearworks. Fine. Meg put the jelly bean jar back on the table, but not before grabbing one last fistful for herself and her canine accomplices. So we have to wait until the day after tomorrow? What do we do until then? Oh, we've got plenty to do, Frank promised. Planning, constructing defenses, war games all day tomorrow. We have to run the Legion through every possible scenario. Besides, his voice faltered, as if he'd realized he was about to say something aloud that was best left in his head. His hand drifted toward the pouch where he left his firewood. I wondered if he'd taken any additional notes from Ella and Tyson, perhaps more harpy ramblings about bridges, fires, and something. If so, Frank apparently didn't want to share. Besides, he started over. You guys should rest up for the quest. You'll have to leave for Sutro early on Lester's birthday. Can we please not call it that? I pleaded. Also, who's you guys? Reyna asked. We may need another Senate vote to decide who goes on the quest. Nah, Frank said. I mean, we can check with the senators, but this is clearly an extension of the original mission, right? Besides, when we're at war, you and I have full executive power. Reyna regarded her colleague. Why, Frank Zhang, you've been studying the Praetor's handbook. Maybe a little. Frank cleared his throat. Anyway, we know who needs to go. Apollo, Meg, and you. The doorway to the Soundless God has to be opened by Bellona's daughter, right? But... Reyna looked back and forth between us. I can't just leave on the day of a major battle. Bellona's power is all about strength in numbers, and I need to lead the troops. And you will, Frank promised. As soon as you get back from San Francisco. In the meantime, I'll hold down the fort. I've got this. Reyna hesitated, but I thought I detected a gleam in her eye. Are you sure, Frank? I mean, yeah, of course you can do it. I know you can, but I'll be fine. Frank smiled like he meant it. Apollo and Meg need you on this quest. Go. Why did Reyna look so excited? How crushing her work must have been if, after carrying a burden of leadership for so long, she was actually looking forward to going on an adventure across the bay to kill a god. I suppose, she said with obviously feigned reluctance. It's settled then. Frank turned to Meg and me. You guys rest up. Big day tomorrow. We'll need your help with the war games. I've got a special job in mind for each of you.